Good evening, everyone. Welcome. The Department of Strategy and Engagement is delighted to have you attending Parent University this evening. My name is Maria Etherton. I am the Family Engagement Coordinator for Richardson ISD and your host for Parent University. Our series, Getting Ready for College, Career, and Beyond, has a total of 5 sessions this month. If you have family, friends, or neighbors that could not join us this evening, I want to let you know that this session will be recorded and available for future viewing in the RISD Parent University video library that can be accessed on the risd.org website. This evening, RISD's Advanced Learning Services will tell us all about testing for college and career readiness, TSI, ACT, and SAT Demystified. At this time, I would like to introduce Jeremy Williamson.
Thank you so very much, Maria. I am super happy and excited to be here with all of you tonight, and thank you so much for joining. My name is Jeremy Williamson, and I'm with the Advanced Learning Services Department, and I work under the leadership of Dr. Kristen Leeper, the Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and Dr. Luke Hurst, the Executive Director of Advanced Learning Services. And I also have the privilege of working beside two amazing directors, Kelsey Carter, the Director of Advanced Learning, and Kimberly Williams, the Director of CCMR. And I am the Director of Student Advancement, which means that I get to have a hand in everything college related, whether it is AP, on-ramps, or dual credit, or college readiness testing. Anything college related, I'm here to help. Now, when I think about Richardson ISD's North Star goal, every student, teacher, and leader will meet and exceed their academic growth. I automatically think of anything to do with college, whether it is dual credits or AP or college readiness testing. All of these combine together to not only help students meet their growth goal, but to grow into the future, growing into college. And with our college readiness testing, this is our way of helping kids get to where they want to be, grow out of high school and into the future. Now, when we're thinking about our students, we really like to kind of concentrate on our graduate profile for RISD. Now, in my world, for advanced academics, particularly when it comes to college readiness testing, I like to take the approach of thinking about testing is not just about a score, but it reflects critical thinking and problem solving. Also, kids develop emotional intelligence. These tests do take quite a bit of time to prepare for, and they can lead to some stress. Students have to develop a level of emotional intelligence to be able to deal with that. And they have to learn how to communicate and advocate for themselves. Taking the test, some of them have essays, that is a communication skill, but also, are they communicating with their teachers when they need help? Are they communicating with the universities that they're wanting to go to? And the financial implications as well. So, a lot of tests do cost money, but some of the ones we offer here at RSD are free for students, so we can help save them money. And some of these tests can qualify them for scholarships that help them save a lot of money in the future. So, just with thinking about college readiness testing, we already hit so much for the graduate profile of helping our students. Now, tonight's session is all about college readiness testing. And these are questions that I receive questions about these tests all the time. What do we offer and what are the tests themselves? So I like to start with just giving a broad overview of the different type of college readiness testing that we offer with RSD. And there's three main types. There are practice exams, and well, I say practice exams, we give one, and that is our PSAT. In particular, it's the PSAT National Merit Scholar version. And as you would expect, this is a practice exam for the SAT. And we have it available starting all the way at ninth grade, going up to 11th grade year. And the purpose of this test is to give students experience with the SAT. The structure of the PSAT is just like the SAT, and it helps give students valuable experience on how the test is structured so they can begin to practice and do better when they take the real SAT. Our another type of testing that we offer here are college entry tests. And I'm going to go ahead and skip just a little bit. We also offer course placement tests, and I am going to go over the difference between the two. So, college entry tests, those are SAT and ACT. Those are tests that students can take and send their scores to university for admission purposes. And they also work to help get students into the classes that they need to take in the future, which means that they qualify also as college course placement exams as well. Now, those tests are available to students starting technically as early as we want to, or as early as they want to sign up, but generally those are given a little bit later in their high school career. The other type of tests that we offer are course placement tests, and they are a bit different from college entry test. So, an entry test helps get kids into a college. A course placement test, such as the TSI 2, which we offer the math and then the reading and writing version of, those are course placement tests, which means that those are tests solely used to get kids into the classes that they need. They are not used for admission purposes. If a student sends their TSI scores to a university, it won't get them into the university, but it will keep them from having to take developmental or remedial classes depending on what their scores are. So, big difference between college entry and college or course placement. College entry can get students into colleges and universities and work as course placement, and course placement solely gets students into the classes that they need, but does not work for admission purposes. Now, I'm going to spend time going over each of these different types, and then at the end, I'll talk about the different benefits of them and how they interact with each other. So let's start with practice tests. We have the PSAT, which all those extra letters after the PSAT, that just means that it is the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, but we just call it the PSAT. It is a test that is available to students to start taking in ninth grade, and we do have ninth graders sign up for this test, which is an excellent thing for them to do. Students who start taking this test earlier get more and more experience and get better and better. And an extra benefit is this is usually the first test that students get to experience that is timed. Most exams that they take at school, whether it's STAR or their in class tests, they're no longer timed. But the PSAT is a timed test. And it needs to be that way because the SAT is also timed. So that goes that will give students experience on how to practice on time management on a test. Now, as far as the format of the test, it is digital only. So when students sign up to take it, they will need a device with them so that they can take it virtually. In the sections that are offered, there are two main sections. There's the math and then the reading and writing. The score range goes anywhere from a 320 up to a 5 or 1520. Now, anyone who's familiar with the SAT, particularly over the past couple of years, you may be wondering, doesn't it go up to 1600? That's for the SAT. PSAT caps at 1520, but that's just because the amount of material isn't the exact same as the SAT. So they do change the score range just a little bit to adjust for that. Other cool feature of the SAT is it's adaptive. Each of the sections, math and reading and writing, are made up of two modules. How a student performs on the first module will determine the level of questions that they receive for the second module. So, students who perform very, very well in the first one will receive more challenging questions on the second module. But if they don't perform as well in the first module, the questions won't be as challenging on the second one. Now, benefits of that, the more challenging questions are worth more points. So this means that how a student performs on the first module will automatically lock in what their max score can be. Now, for accommodations, students are allowed to receive accommodations for the PSAT, but that's only after being approved by College Board. Now, with this, I do have some great news. We at RSD help with the process of submitting accommodations. When testing comes around, you'll receive emails about filling out forms so that we can send them to College Board for your student to receive accommodations. And these can be anywhere from extended time to potentially having a reader read each test question for your student. And last little bit on the PSAT, which will be a consistent theme through all of our college readiness testing, there's no penalty for guessing. So this just means that students don't start off at a perfect score and lose points for getting questions wrong. They only gain points for getting questions correct. If they get a question wrong, oh well, they got a question wrong and they just don't receive points for it. This means that a question should never, ever be left blank. Now, getting into a little bit more detail, the two sections that are offered, there is the math section and then the reading and writing. For the math section, again, there are two modules. There are a total of 44 questions over the two modules, but it's 22 questions per module. And those are a mixture of both free response and multiple choice. A vast majority of the questions are multiple choice. As far as the time part of that goes, for the math section, there is a time limit of 70 minutes, 35 minutes per module. And the content that's covered, it goes anywhere from Algebra 1 all the way through up to trigonometry, which students usually get that material covered in pre-calculus, but they can also experience several trig questions that are required for the PSAT during geometry. Now, cool change that happened recently with the PSAT and SAT when they switched to digital only, not only become adaptive, but now a calculator is allowed and provided for both sections of math. Now, if anyone has already taken the SAT and PSAT in the past, you might feel a little something about this because you probably had to do one section without a calculator. But now, calculators are provided for both. And not only that, students are able to bring in their own outside calculator as long as it's one that's approved by College Board, but they can also use the built-in calculator, which is Desmos. So if a student is very well versed in Desmos, they have it available to them for every single question in the math part. Now, for reading and writing, again, it's two modules. There are a total of 54 questions with 27 questions per module, and those are solely multiple choice. The time frame on that is 64 minutes, which is 32 minutes per module. As far as the content that's covered in the reading and writing section, it's mainly short passages reading for information, authors, idea and message, craft and structure, but there's also a lot of editing and revision as well, to where students have to work on the English grammar side of it as well. Now, for the PSAT, one question I receive all the time is, if my student is going to be taking the ACT in the future, why do I even bother with the PSAT? One big reason to practice on the PSAT is, one, not only to getting your student adjusted to a time test, but the national merit version of the PSAT can qualify students for scholarships. Now, with that said, the only grade level in which students are able to take the PSAT and qualify for a scholarship is the 11th grade year. But taking it ninth and 10th grade gives them more exposure. It makes them more comfortable and better prepared for the test. So when they do take it during the 11th grade year, they may potentially qualify as a national merit scholar. Now, the way that the scholars are picked, it is judged state by state based on a cutoff score. Now, the cutoff score does change every single year, so we can't tell you what score students need to aim for because it's all based on the scores of everyone across the state and nation who take it. So they only take the top certain percent, so the score will change. But based on that, students can either be recognized as a commended student semifinalist, or a finalist. And when they achieve that status, they can qualify for a national merit scholarship, but also those scores are shared out to where they can qualify for scholarships through colleges, corporate scholarships, or any other type of merit based scholarship with universities. So even if your students plan on taking the ACT and not the SAT, the PSAT can be very beneficial for not only practice on time test, but getting scholarships for the future. And that's why we focus on the national merit version as opposed to the other versions of the PSAT. Now, this leads us right into college entry test. Now, for those of you watching, you probably look at this slide for the SAT and think you may have already seen it before. That's because it's almost the exact same as the PSAT slide. Well, the reason for that, the PSAT is a practice for the SAT and they structure it the same exact way. The only thing that changes is the fact that the score range is now a little bit different and the SAT can qualify students for course placement. So again, it's solely digital, has both math and reading. It's still adaptive in time. Students can get their accommodations. But I do want to mention one thing on here. I did put that students can start taking this in ninth grade. It is possible and allowed for students to take the SAT starting in ninth grade. It's just usually better for them to wait a little bit longer so they can cover more of the material that shows up on the test. But they can technically start it sooner than 11th grade. And again, no penalty for guessing on questions that you don't know. Now, just like the PSAT, there's a math and reading section, two modules, same number of questions, same time limit. So by taking the PSAT, the students are practicing exactly what they need for the SAT. But at this point, I do want to focus in on the college benchmark scores. A few moments ago, I mentioned that the college entry test, SAT and ACT, also can count for course placement. So, this is where I want to take a mini detour into my college world and explain course placement. When students go to college, say if they were to sign up for my college algebra class, they have to show that they are ready for a college level math class. The way they do that is by achieving a TSI status if they're going to school within Texas. It's called something else in different states, but essentially it's just a college benchmark score. By taking a test to show that they are ready, such as the SAT, they are able to bypass the developmental or remedial classes and go straight to the course that they need for graduation or being core complete. For the math section of the SAT, the college benchmark score is 530 or above. So any student who only takes the SAT as any type of college readiness test, if they score a 530 or above, they can send their scores to a college. And by doing that, the college will see that they are automatically ready to go into an on level college math course. But if they score below that and don't take any other type of test, they would potentially need to take a remedial math class. Now, there are other ways around this, such as dual credit or college prep courses that can waive it. But focusing solely on college readiness testing, a student would need to achieve this benchmark to avoid developmental or remedial classes. Now, for the math section, again, covers all the same content, but there is a little bit more of the higher level parts, such as a few more trigonometry questions, which is why this is usually appropriate for 11th grade. And again, calculators allow for both sections. Now, for the reading and writing, again, two modules, 54 questions, and 64 minutes. As far as the college benchmark score based on the reading and writing, it's 480 or above. Now, for the college benchmark for reading and writing, those scores are used to help students bypass developmental or remedial classes in the humanities courses, such as English 1301, History 1301, Government, any of those non-math or science courses generally go off the reading and writing section for the SAT or ACT or TSI, but those apply for a lot of different courses. And again, covers all the same content that the PSAT covered. So for the SAT, we have college benchmark scores available now. But again, the SAT is an entry test, so its combined score can be sent to colleges to help get them into the college or university that they want to go to in the future. Now, the other type of college entry test that's offered within RISD is the ACT. This is the one that is offered to all juniors during March. The ACT format, what's given here at RSD is the digital version, but it is still possible to sign up for outside testing and request paper testing as well. Now, ACT is a bit different than the SAT. First big difference, the number of sections. There are 5 different sections available for the ACT: math, English, reading, science, and writing. But out of those 5 sections, the math, English, and reading, they are the only required sections when students sign up for the ACT. The science and writing, they are optional. Now, when we give the ACT to juniors this year, science will be provided for them, but the writing is not. Now, the score range for the ACT goes anywhere from a 1 up to a 36. As far as the formatting on it goes, it is still a time test, so each section is timed, but it is not adaptive. Students receive the same type of questions from start to finish. In the ACT, the structure generally goes from easier questions to harder questions as they proceed along. As far as accommodations go, students are able to receive accommodations such as extra time or a reader, but they do have to submit their accommodations to ACT. And again, for students taking the school day test, we help with that process. And just like the SAT, technically students can take this as early as ninth grade. But to stand a better chance on the test and know more of the material that's on it, it's generally best to wait until around 11th grade so that they've covered more of the material that is on the test. And again, no penalty at all for guessing if you don't know the answer. Okay, so at this point, I want to go over a little bit more detail on the different sections that are available for this. The math section has 45 multiple choice questions in 50 minutes. And the college benchmark for the math section is 22 or higher. And again, that benchmark, if it is met, students are able to bypass developmental or remedial classes. The material covered within the ACT starts down with pre-algebra and goes all the way through trigonometry, which for our students, that's generally covered in geometry and pre-calculus. For the English section, there are 50 multiple choice questions in 35 minutes. The benchmark for English is 18 or higher, but I do have a special note on that in just a couple minutes. And the English section focuses on grammar, punctuation, the sentence structure. So it's mainly just editing your revision for this part. They'll be given a passage to read and ask questions. How would you change this? Does any change need to even happen? For the reading section, there are 35 multiple choice or 36 multiple choice questions in 40 minutes. And the college benchmark for that is 22 or higher. Now, a second ago, I said there was a special note about the benchmark for English. A lot of universities and colleges look at a combined score for English and reading and judge that for its college readiness. So the combined score for English and reading that universities look for is 40 or higher. Now, for the reading section, that is just reading comprehension. Can they understand what they are reading? Can they identify the thesis, the author's intended message. So it is reading fundamental skills. Now, for our two optional sections, the first one we have is the science section. The science section has 40 multiple choice questions in 40 minutes. The college benchmark for that is 23 or higher. But I do want to give a special little note on this. Most universities don't require the science section, but if they do require it, it's generally for courses such as biology and chemistry or physics. So those are the only courses that really are influenced by the science section. But if you have a student who is wanting to join an honors program that's pre-med, they may want to see the science section. So depending on what their future goal is, if it's strongly science related, it would be a good idea to take the ACT because of the science section. Now, as far as the content covered, it is mainly data interpretation. Can students look at a excerpt of a research paper or a graph and identify what's going on? Can they pick out the structure of it? Can they identify the data points? Now, the other optional section is the writing. The writing is a single essay, which is 50 minutes. And for this, it's mainly just high school writing skills. Can they write a proper essay that is structured well, has proper grammar, and answers the prompt? Okay, that was a lot of information. And at this point, you might be wondering there are two different college entry tests. Which one should my student take? Well, good news is both exams are accepted by almost all US colleges and universities. Most do not prefer one versus the other, and both can provide scholarship opportunities. So, taking the test, some when when you send the test scores to certain universities, they may already provide scholarships based on these test scores. But there are outside scholarships, such as through different companies or corporations that students can apply for that do want to see test scores. So, doing well on either of those tests and sending those scores for scholarship applications can help. So, both provide that opportunity to students. Now, other little tidbit on here, and this is a recommendation from almost everyone in education, take both. Do both tests. They have different structures, they have different formattings. You might do well on one and not as well on the other, but you won't know until you try both. And who knows, you might do well on both. Go for it. Now, an extra cool piece that both exams offer, they can be super scored. Now, super scoring is a pretty neat feature. Say a student takes the SAT once, or the first time they take the SAT, they kill it on the reading and writing, but the math part's a little lackluster. Well, they have the option of retaking the test. They can take either test multiple times. Well, they take the SAT a second time and they knock the math part out of the park that second go round. They can do a super score and it will take the higher score of each test for the individual sections and put them together to make a single test score. So students are able to retake the test, and not that I encourage this, but if they make a wonderful score in one section, that just means if they take it again, they can put so much more of their brain power in the other section and then super score. You can do that for both the SAT and ACT. Now, as far as which one might be better based on the student, I did put some recommendations on here. So for the SAT, students do get a little bit more time per question. So if they need a little more time to process, the SAT might be a better option. But if they work a little bit better under fast paced conditioning, the ACT would work a little bit better for them. Now, the SAT has fewer sections. There is only the math and only the English, but Based on my example from earlier, if a student's wanting to go into a field in college that is strongly science related, they may want to take the ACT because of the science section. Now, there are resources available for both. So, depending on what type of resources you like or platforms, if you like working with College Board's website, SAT has a lot of material for you. And if you like ACT's website or practice material, ACT is a great option. Now, this is another little tidbit that I will spend just a little bit of time explaining. Another big difference between them that could be a determining factor if you're thinking which might be a better option is whether you're looking at the SAT or ACT in terms of what type of exam it is. The SAT is what's referred to as an aptitude based exam, and the ACT is a curriculum based exam. Now, what I mean by those is an aptitude based exam that takes the material that students have been taught, but they are asked questions in a way to judge their critical thinking skills. Can they take what they've been taught but apply it? And those questions can be sometimes a little trickier, but they are a good judge of critical thinking. The ACT, on the other hand, is a curriculum based exam. And what that means is those questions are a little more straightforward and they are based on what the students have already learned in class and they are more direct. If a student was taught how to find slope, they will be asked, can you find the slope on this question? As opposed to the SAT, which is, let me give you a longer word problem. Can you identify what's there and recognize that you need slope? So they are two different type of tests, but if your student likes something more straightforward, ACT is a great option. If your student is really great at critical thinking and applying their material, SAT provides that. Now, with all that being said, I still encourage to take both. Just go ahead and do it. They both provide opportunities and it will not hurt to do either. Now, as far as how to take these, for the SAT, we do not offer school day testing for the SAT, but there are national Saturday testing dates that are offered at Richardson ISD high schools. The high schools that have the Saturday testing are Richardson High School and Lake Highlands High School. And I do have all the dates available that students can register for the exams for 2026 on the screen. If students do want to take that test, they can go to College Board's website, or you can just do a quick Google search, SAT registration, and it'll get you exactly where you need to go. It'll list out all the dates available as well as the registration deadlines. As far as the cost goes, the SAT does cost $68, or if your student qualifies for a fee waiver, they can take the test for free. Now, to qualify for a fee waiver, they would need to submit information to College Board, or they can speak with someone on their campus, their college and career coordinator, to help out with that. For the ACT, we do offer this one as a school day option. This year, it'll be on March 25th, and it is for all 11th grade students. If a student is in ninth or 10th grade and they want to take the test, they would have to sign up for an outside test because this one's solely for 11th graders. Now, for outside testing, ACT does offer national Saturday testing as well. And the locations for that with Richardson, Richardson High School and Lake Highlands High School, just the same as SAT. And again, I put all of the available dates for Saturday testing for 2026 on the screen. To register for the ACT as a Saturday test, students would need to go to act.org, or they can do a quick Google search for ACT registration and they would be able to sign up for the test. Now, as far as the cost goes for the school day testing, it is free. Students do not have to pay for school day testing. But if they want to sign up for a Saturday test, that would cost students $68, or if they have a fee waiver, they can take it for free. But that $68 only covers the math, English, and reading section. If students wish to take the writing, that is an additional $25. And if they want to take the science, that is an additional $4. So those do cost extra since they are optional. All right. So those are our SAT and ACT. And at this point, we're going to shift over to course placement test. But before I get into details on the TSIE 2, I do want to spend just a couple minutes talking about why the course placement tests are offered and why they are necessary and beneficial for our students. I explained that the SAT and ACT, those are both college entry tests, but they also can qualify for the course placement as well. So let's say a student takes the ACT for the school day testing. They do super well on the English and the reading, but they don't score super well on the math. They don't hit that college readiness benchmark. Well, students do have the option of retaking the test, but if they don't want to sit through the entire test again, if their score is already good enough to get into their dream college, there is another option. Students are able, in this situation, to take one of the TSI tests and use that in combination with their SAT or ACT score to get into the course that they need. So, for the example I was just talking about, a student didn't score well enough for a course placement in math. Well, they can sign up for the TSI math. And if they score well enough on that, that will bypass their TSI requirement. And now they can take their math course that they need without having to retake and sit for the entire SAT or ACT again. Now, for the TSIE 2, um, generally that is just referred to as the TSI. TSIE 2 is a little bit longer to say. Um, that test, TSI just stands for Texas Assess Initiative, and the A2, that's assessment in version 2. It is a digital test which covers math, reading, and writing. And all three of those sections can be taken separately. Students do not have to sit for all three at once. And if students only need one section based on their ACT or SAT score, they only need to sign up for the section they need. The score range goes anywhere from a 910 to a 990 for math and reading. And those are judged separately. They're not combined together for a composite score like SAT or ACT. And they're all adaptive and untimed. So the untimed part is a huge benefit for our students on the TSI because they have more time to sit and think about each question, work out problems, write a practice essay or a rough draft before typing anything in. So they have a lot of time. When I've given this test before, I've had students who wanted to take their time, start at 8 and not finish till 1, but they did excellent because they paced themselves. And the adaptive part, as students get questions correct within a certain category, such as, say, algebra, their next algebra question will be more challenging. And if students get a question wrong, the next question within that category won't be as challenging. Now, this is an excellent opportunity for our students because as questions get more challenging, those more challenging questions are worth more points. But if they get a question wrong and their next question is not as challenging, they can still get a question right and receive points. So it's not to hold students back, but it's to meet them where they are. For accommodations, students can qualify for accommodations after submitting accommodations to College Board. This College Board does own the TSI. But again, we help with that process. But for the accommodations that are offered for the TSI, they are a little bit different since this is an untimed test. The main accommodations that students can receive would be either small group testing or having a read. For the grade levels in which these tests are offered, they can start as early as 8th grade and go all the way through 12th grade. And even after graduation, some students that I've taught at the college walked almost straight from the TSI into my class as a college student. Now, as far as this goes, they can test early in 8th grade because these scores are good for 5 years. Now, anything earlier than 8th grade is not advised because by the time a student graduates, the score will no longer be valid. So 8th grade is the earliest possible. And again, there is no penalty at all for guessing. Now, as far as the individual sections go, there is the math section. The math section is made up of the base test or the college readiness test, and it is 20 questions, and they're all multiple choice. I want you to notice that the 20 questions is drastically different from the SAT and ACT, which are much longer. The TSI is designed to be a snapshot to see where the student is right now. Do they have the skills needed without doing a long test? Can they meet where they're at? And after completing the first 20 questions, students will either receive a score, which means that they got a qualifying college benchmark score, or they'll receive 48 additional questions, which are multiple choice. Now, those 48 questions are what's called the diagnostic. Now, I don't like to think of the diagnostic as an extra test. I like to think of it as a second chance. Every time a student takes the math or a reading section, they are receiving two chances to get qualifying scores on the test. They have their base version, which is short for math, only 20 questions. And if they don't score a high enough score on the 20 questions, they get a second chance for free. The 48 questions, the diagnostic is their second opportunity to get a qualifying score. And if they do, it works just the same as if they pass the base version. Now, for the college readiness benchmark, the base test, the 20 questions for math, the qualifying score cutoff is 950 or above. If a student scores below that, that's when they get the diagnostic. But the diagnostic does have a qualifying score as well, which is 6 or higher. As far as the material covered for the math, it has quantitative reasoning, algebraic, geometric, probabilistic, and statistical reasoning. This just means that it starts anywhere from pre-algebra, which is the kind of quantitative reasoning part, all the way up through geometry. And there is a little bit of trigonometry on there, but the trigonometry is what is covered in geometry. It is the base version. So students who take this in 8th grade, as long as they've had Algebra 1, there's a good chance they can still pass this even if they haven't had a full geometry course because they have been exposed to geometry material before algebra. Now, at this point, I do want to point out a huge difference between the TSI and the SAT, ACT. For the TSI, students are not allowed to use an outside calculator. Some questions do require a calculator, and one will be provided in the test itself. There will be a screen that can pop up that students can use for a calculator, but not every single question does have that. So, with that said, it is very important to know that students must be able to do math without a calculator in order to do well on the TSI math. Now, moving over to the reading section, this one again has two chances. There is the base test, which is made up of 32 multiple choice questions, and the diagnostic portion or the second chance, which again is 48 questions. And I do want to stress one more time the 48 questions is only as needed. If a student gets a qualifying score in the first 32, they bypass the 48, don't even have to worry about it. For the college benchmark scores, a qualifying score for the reading section is 945 or above. And if they don't score that, that's when they get their second chance with the diagnostic and they have an opportunity to get a score of 5 or higher to get a qualifying score. As far as the material covered, it's mainly reading comprehension and editing and revision. The structure for the reading part, students will receive either a short passage, a long passage, or two passages that they must compare. But there is quite a bit of reading on this one, so students need to be able to pace themselves. Now, generally, when students take the reading section of the TSI for the first time, they'll also be given the writing section at the same time. So the way that works is after a student finishes the reading section, they will automatically be kicked over to the writing section. But it is possible to do those sections separately, or if a student needs to retest, they can do them separately. For the writing, students will only have to write a single essay, and this college benchmark score on that is a 5 or higher. Now, as far as the essay goes itself, it will be a persuasive essay, which students should be used to from their courses and from STAR. And I do have some tips on this because these aren't generally advertised by College Board or AccuPlacer. For students to do their best on the writing section, it's usually recommended to follow the 5 paragraph structure. So, an introduction, 3 main bodies, and a conclusion, a minimum word count of 500 words. When students read the instructions, it'll say that they can submit their essay after 300 words, but that's not advised. Anything below 500 words, there's a good chance they won't receive a qualifying score. So they need to shoot for 500 words or more. And the other part that students need to be aware of, most all of the essays are graded by AI. So for the AI grading, it mainly focuses on grammar, punctuation, subject verb agreement, and whether they stayed on task with the prompt. So students time to do the writing, follow the 5 paragraph structure, hit 500 words, and definitely follow the grammar rules. I would always tell students taking it with me, think about when you're typing something out in Word or Google Docs. If there is a blue line under it, you need to pay attention and fix it. Now, for this, um, for testing and registration for the TSI is offered at all high schools, and it's also offered at select middle schools and junior highs based on principal discretion. Test date, there is school-wide testing for the TSI March 25th through 27th. And there's also weekly testing of small groups based on what admin schedule on their campuses. In order to register for the test, students would need to speak with their campus admin in order to request taking the test. But it's also possible that the admin will reach out to students who haven't met their TSI requirement for college and offer the test to them. So any student who's seeking to meet their CCMR requirement, admin might reach out to them in their later years. Now, for resources for all of these tests, College Board provides their Blue Book app, which can be used for practice SAT tests, which also helps practice the PSAT as well. ACT has their own mobile friendly app as well, the ACT Test Prep. And for both of those, you can find free online tests online just with a quick Google search. Khan Academy is another excellent resource for practicing the SAT. Cool feature with the Khan Academy option, if a student has taken the PSAT, they can load their scores into their Khan Academy account, and Khan Academy can build a personalized plan for them based on their score. Now, RSD does offer extra resources as well. We already have practice built into our curriculum that students are practicing in their math and English course. Plus, there are some school day pullouts. So, if a student is scheduled to take the TSI, for example, sometimes we'll pull students out for maybe an hour or two prep ahead of time to get them ready for the test that they've registered for. We also provide Saturday boot camps, and that's for SAT, ACT, and TSI. And this year, I'm happy to say that we will be providing virtual tutoring again during the evening in March and February, just like we did last year. So those sessions will be for ACT and TSI prep for students who are taking the test in March. Another option that students have access to is IXL. They can access that through their ClassLink portal. Go there and they can pull up whichever tests and skills that they're looking to practice and practice on their own without having a teacher create anything for them. Now, I did put an extra resource on here because I have received a lot of questions as far as what score do I need or what scores are good for particular universities. So Kimberly Williams has dropped a link in the chat for both of these that you will have access to later as well. The College Simply is a great way of checking to see what colleges in which states students can qualify for based on their SAT or ACT score. So if a student's already taken the test and they have a score, that's a great resource to see what colleges will accept them. Also, for anyone who's taken the SAT, they're able to use Big Future and look at a national list of colleges that also details their graduation rates, admission standards, and score ranges for students. Now, I have just one more bit of advice on here before we get to some questions. So, one of the first pieces of advice that almost any educator is going to give you is start early. Don't wait till last minute to begin preparing for a test or get exposed to a test. Start early. Yes, students may receive the ACT or SAT in ninth or 11th grade, but they can start the PSAT earlier. Get exposure. This next one is huge. Students should focus on consistent practice over time, not just cramming. Cramming right before the test doesn't give your brain time to really process and internalize. Spend time every week practicing, and that way it's easier. Also, focus on the skills that are needed. Don't just focus on tricks. Yes, test taking strategies and tricks can help out with certain questions, but they aren't going to help you with the entire test. You do need to be familiar with the skills that you're being tested on, not just tricks to help you. And the last part, and this is very, very important for every single student to hear. One test score does not determine your entire future or your college readiness. Sometimes you register and you have a bad day. You may have missed breakfast. You may have stubbed your toe and your entire day's ruined. That's fine. You can try again. One test doesn't determine your future. Now, there's been a lot of information provided, and I don't think we have a whole lot of time left, but I will try to answer some of the questions that I see regularly. So on here, one question that I saw in the chat, colleges see whether something is super score or not. What they see is just the score that is sent to them. It doesn't necessarily say super score. They just see the composite score and the individual scores for the benchmark purposes. So they're not going to see that it's super score and turn a student down. All they worry about is have you met the requirements needed for the college? So don't worry about that part. And as far as fee waivers go, one of the primary factors for looking at fee waivers is whether a student qualifies for free or reduced lunch. So if a student does, they can work with their campus coordinator for college and career. They can verify the free or reduced lunch status and submit information to College Board to get their fee waiver. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so I do want to hit a couple of these questions real quick. Key differences between ACT, SAT, TSI. Again, SAT and ACT are entry tests that can also do course placement. The TSI is solely course placement. Those scores won't get you into the school, but once you're into the school, they get you into the classes you need. And as far as the best fit, it all depends on your individual student. For SAT and ACT, we highly recommend that students take both. And as far as TSI, that is a great supplementary tool if a student does not get a qualifying score for a single section. And as far as taking the TSI early, that is a great option because that gives the district an opportunity to see students who already qualify for college readiness, say in eighth grade. If we see a student who qualifies for college readiness in eighth grade, we know that we need to talk with that student, work with them, help develop them, and get them on an advanced pathway because they are already advanced. So taking that early is a chance to identify them for extra greatness in the future. Now, when should students take that during high school? Early. ACT and SAT, Those are great to take 11th grade year, but they can take it early. But we usually recommend that they focus on the PSAT early. TSI, they can start as early as 8th grade, and it is recommended to start that early for identification purposes. And as far as how many times can they test, they can take any of those tests as many times as needed. SAT and ACT, they may have to pay for that, but great news for the TSI, those tests are free. The district does pay for that. So if a student does need to take it, that's a great opportunity. But I do want to say, taking the test is not practicing for your next go round. You can take it, see how well you do, then study, and then we will test you again. Now, uh, how do colleges use the SAT and ACT score today? There are still colleges and universities that are test optional. They mainly look at your class rank and your GPA and on your transcript. But post COVID, several universities have moved back to having a requirement of SAT or ACT. And as far as our next question that rolls right into which scores are considered good, it all depends on where your student wants to go. I highly recommend looking at the resources that I linked to see what scores are required. If you don't see anything about the college, university your student wants to go to, they have it posted on their admissions page for every single college and university. So, what's a good score varies depending on what a student wants to do in the future and where they want to go. College ready, there are set benchmarks that are in the presentation and will be part of the one pager that we send out later. And how do these scores connect to scholarships? Some scholarships with universities will already see the scores when students send them to them and qualify immediately. Other scholarships, students do have to apply for outside, such as for different companies or corporations, and they will ask to see scores. So students can either send scores to where they're applying for a scholarship, or if they send their scores directly to university, they may qualify for a scholarship with that university directly. And as far as National Merit Scholar goes, that is solely for PSAT for students who take it during the 11th grade year. Students who take it earlier than 11th grade cannot qualify for National Merit. And if a student doesn't score well their first go round, then they have experience. They have practice. They can retake it. And again, they can do a combination of tests as well. If they score a great score for the SAT and don't want to retake it, but didn't hit college ready on one section, that's where the TSI can come in and take care of the rest. And as I said before, for accommodations, students are able to qualify for accommodations for all tests. And only got a couple left, so if you're still with me, I'll just wrap this up pretty quick. TSI fitting into college readiness, that again is a course placement. Some students will have to take the TSI to get into dual credit classes, and that's solely based on how many dual credit hours they already have. Most students don't need to take it, but it does vary student to student. By taking the test and passing it, they can get into their dual credit class because they got placed into it. And as far as preparations go, we offer material already built into the curriculum. We also have some Saturday boot camps that are advertised, as well as our nightly series, which will be taking place in February and March. And as far as how families can help their students, it is a great opportunity by finding just extra time for students at home to work on either practice tests. But one of the best things you can do is just help encourage your student. Don't push them too hard to burn them out. Give them time to breathe, but also remind them of the importance of it. Balance out the importance of the test and school with taking care of themselves mentally. Now, that is it for all of my sections. But I do want to give a quick heads up. There is another section coming up on Wednesday, January 21st. That will be for military and Avid. any of your students who are wanting to work on preparing for college readiness or doing better in AP, dual credit, or on-ramps, Avid is an amazing option. They have so much built into their class and curriculum to help prepare students. And for military, you want to talk about building emotional preparedness and structure. That is an excellent option with our JOTC program. So if you would like to learn more about those, January 21st at 6:30 is a great option for you. All right. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and I would love to answer any of your questions. You're welcome to reach out to me. Again, my name is Jeremy Williamson, and any questions you have, I'm happy to help. Thank you so much.
There is a link for registration for the next session, and you can find it at risd.org, Parent University. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening, everyone.